The first question comes from Vidya Hoka. My 7-month-old is a terrible sleeper both day and night and has been since she was 3 months old. She gets rocked to sleep in my arms or fed to sleep as it is impossible to put her down awake as she gets hysterical. Not just crying, but seriously hysterical. For the last week, she's been waking up at night every hour, on the hour, crying. It gets really exhausting and stressful, resettling her throughout the night, and I'm desperate for help. I cannot continue this cycle. Well, Vidya, of course the problem really starts with trying to get her to sleep. And at 7 months, you need to start trying to think about other ways of settling her to sleep without rocking or feeding her to sleep. Probably the best thing to start with would be to take her into the cot and sit with her with your hand on her back, or just settling her down physically, but without actually the feeding and the rocking. And of course initially she won't like that very much. It'll be a change of her routine, and that will be some distress. So there will be a little bit of crying happening, but in the end you need to be able to, once you can get her down to sleep without all these external ways of doing it, rocking and feeding, then you'll find that she will start to be able to self-soothe at night as well. Question from Sarah Coombs. My baby is coming up 5 months old. She generally sleeps from 10 or 11 p.m. to 6 or 7 a.m, which is great, but will only go to sleep whilst feeding. And when I transfer her into a bed, she often wakes and I have to start all over again. Her daytime sleeps are the same. I have to feed her and she sleeps on my lap for 20 to 30 minutes. If I try to put her into bed, she wakes. I'm firmly against leaving her to cry, and since that's the only advice I've had so far, I'd like to have some other ideas. Well, Sarah, the 3-step bedtime routine has been shown to be very effective, and at 5 months old, I don't think it would take very long for your baby to get into a good habit of sleeping in a cot without you necessarily feeding her to sleep. So it means a quiet time in the evening, bathing the child. Massage is a lovely thing to be doing, and then into the cot with your hand perhaps on her, just to keep her nice and settled with some physical contact initially, but then as she's able to sleep more easily, then withdraw from taking your hand off her and moving away from the bed. Feeding to sleep, of course, is a very common thing that happens, but it does mean that when she wakes in the night, she will need to be breastfed back to sleep, because that's her trigger to go to sleep. And the other thing I suggest you do is to feed before you actually put her into the cot, so that she goes into the cot and has the story or the little song, lullaby, before she actually falls asleep in the cot without feeding. And I think you'd find also that during the daytime, if you can repeat that procedure, not the bath and the massage necessarily, but putting it into a cot, keeping it nice and dark in her bedroom, that if it's a regular time that she's having her naps in the day, that she will actually go to sleep. So give her that opportunity to do that without breastfeeding. A question from Gemma Gale. My 2.5-year-old has just started resisting going to sleep at night. She screams and carries on from 9 to midnight, or when she finally gives in. She shares a room with her 7-month-old sister, so she usually falls asleep in my bed and I move her later. Once she falls asleep, she can stay asleep. It's just getting to sleep that's impossible, and any help is welcome. Gemma, I just wonder whether at 2.5 years old, that going to bed at 9 o'clock is a little late. It might be that your daughter is getting very overtired and therefore struggling to get to sleep and crying so vigorously for that 3 hours once she realizes she can't sleep. So I suggest that you try and get her to bed rather earlier, start the tea process and the process getting to bed a little bit earlier. Make sure that at 2.5 years old she's still having a nap during the day, preferably just after lunch. The better they sleep during the day, the better they'll sleep at night. So don't try and keep her awake all day, because they don't sleep so well. The final thought is that, of course, going to sleep in your bed is what she likes doing, and I'm sure that's not altogether convenient. So it'd be better, once you can start the new process, discuss that with her, and then see if you can tidy up her bedroom, her bed, so it's an inviting place to go, and then take her into her own bed. And then think about some reward system for doing that. If she's able to go to sleep in her own room, then she gets a star. Star charts are really helpful. They're pretty simple. Make it attainable. So don't say you have to do this for the next week, otherwise you won't get a star, because they'll never make it. But maybe a couple of nights of good behaviour, get a star, and then maybe 2 of those you get a different star, and eventually they can choose something they like to do. So using star charts is very helpful as a positive incentive.